Well, here we are again, talking about another potential winter storm for the Carolinas and parts of Virginia. Detecting a little bit of a pattern that I do not care for. Be that as it may, this is the Winter Storm Severity Index brought to you by the Weather Prediction Center, and it paints a pretty grim picture of the weather this weekend. At least moderate impacts for the majority of the Carolinas and parts of southern Virginia. This severity index incorporates disruptions to daily life. So the moderate impacts, the orange and above, like the major and extreme impacts, the reds and purples, they highlight the possibility of travel, hazardous travel conditions, the possibility of power outages and internet outages, infrastructure outages, and this is going to be a higher probability towards the east, towards Greenville, Jacksonville, Lumberton, perhaps even towards Columbia, South Carolina. Now, the problem with this storm, unlike last week's storm, is the majority of the precipitation on the western side is due to upper level dynamics. And when it comes to upper level dynamics, the evolution of the upper level low and the amount of moisture content that is available for precipitation has to align exactly right. And any difference between what is actually going to happen versus what the models are depicting is going to happen could spell disaster for these forecasts. And I'm weary of some of these snowfall totals and the QPF, the quantitative precipitation forecast that these models are outputting, especially for the western part of North Carolina and South Carolina upstate. That makes me nervous. Typically, and not always, but sometimes, the models overestimate the amount of precipitation that is falling from the upper level dynamics alone. Now, over here towards the coast is a different story. We're going to have some strong cyclogenesis towards the coast. And this area here, I'm probably pretty sure that's kind of weird to say, but I'm pretty sure that this eastern part of, well, I would say east of I-95 has a good chance to be correct. The part that makes me nervous is, again, west of 95, this area right in here, because that is highly reliant on upper level dynamics. And if anything differs, then that's it. Like, the forecast is blown. You know what I mean? So, be that as it may, I am going to show you some QPF, some quantitative precipitation forecasts, and show you my favorite model, the MBM, and, we can compare. And any trends will be highlighted. All right, let's go. So starting off with the GFS, here's our QPF through Sunday morning at 7 a.m. So this is a 72-hour forecast. And yeah, as you can see, it is dumping a whole bunch of precipitation on the western side of the Carolinas and upstate. This part of the state, I'm pretty sure is going to be okay as far as the forecast confidence because of that strong cyclogenesis, unless something weird happens and this is well off the coast of the Carolinas, and in which case, if it's too far off the coast, then none of this is going to happen, and I'm pretty much wasting storage on YouTube. So anyways, this is the GFS, and over the Charlotte metro area, over towards Greensboro, down towards Greenwood, this is pretty much, 5 inches of snow. If you were to take the textbook version of 10 to 1 ratio, so if you highlight this area, that's 5.6, 5.7, so that's about 5.5 inches of snow across the Charlotte metro area. Not so bad, not too shabby, if I say so myself. Over towards Greenville, Goldsboro, Fayetteville, you're looking at a lot more. According to the GFS, about 9 to 10 inches, and perhaps 14 inches of snow. That's probably not going to be correct, but Jacksonville, that's what the GFS has. Oh, boy. Now, if we take a look at the ECMWF, we'll look at the AI versions of these models here in a little bit. But right now, let's just look at what the actual deterministic physics-based models have. So, again, it paints a pretty similar picture, at least over the Charlotte metro area. A little bit, perhaps notably absent is the amount of precipitation in the southeastern corner of North Carolina. That is pretty wild right there, which means that this entirety of the precipitation shield, at least according to the ECMWF, is, upper level dynamics. Oof, that makes me nervous. It really does. If we take a look at some of the AI versions now, the AI GFS going out to 72 hours. There it is. Now, another thing that I've also saw on the ensembles is this minimum over here in the northeastern corner of the state of North Carolina into the southeastern corner of Virginia. And then I've seen a southward jog, or a southeast or a southwestward jog of the heaviest precipitation in the ensembles. This used to be a little bit further to the north and east of the Charlotte metro area, and now it looks like it is migrating south and west. So that's an interesting trend that we've seen. If we go to the ECMWAIFS, and if we actually pick out the correct forecast hour of 72, there we have that one. So these models paint a similar potential across the Charlotte metro area. The differences would be what happens over here in Greenville, northeastward towards Elizabeth City, and over towards Lawrenceville, Virginia, and also what happens over here towards the Myrtle Beach, Wilmington area, Lumberton area on Sunday. The models pretty much have, I don't want that, pretty much have a lock on how much precipitation, or they think they got a lock on how much precipitation the upstate of South Carolina will see. If we take a look at now the hybrid GEFS, so the GEFS out to 72, I mean, it looks pretty similar to me. This would give you confidence, right? This would give you confidence that the forecast might be correct, but I am weary. See, there's that minimum again over here towards the northeastern part of the state. And this is the AI GEFS. And then heavier precipitation across parts of South Carolina. Yeah. So that's what we see now. Now let's take a look at the NBM model. Okay, here's my favorite model, the NBM. Notice that it's not that much dissimilar to some of the other deterministic and the ensembles. Now, again, what happens over here in the northeastern part of the state? What happens over here in the southeastern part of the state? The western part of the state, even though the MBM, which is supposed to be better than any single, because you got to understand the NBM it's an ensemble in and of itself. So some of the bias that the GEFS has, or the GEFS, or the ECMWF, or its ensembles have, is also carried over to the MBM, unfortunately. But maybe to a little lesser extent, but I'm still kind of nervous. This forecast makes me a little bit more nervous than the last forecast. If we take a look at total snowfall, I mean, look at that. We got about 6 to 7 inches. Sorry, John. Towards Greenville, 9 to 10 inches. Charlotte looking at about 7 inches. And, some of the probabilities are pretty high. So you're looking at 70, maybe just north of 80% probability of seeing 4 inches or greater in the Charlotte metro area, according to the MBM probabilities. So, yeah. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you is one of the things that makes me nervous. And if we take a look at precipitation type on the GFS, for instance, we'll loop it and then I will pause it to give us some breathing room. So, let's see, tomorrow afternoon, we should see snow start to break out over the mountains of Kentucky, Virginia, Tennessee, Western North Carolina at about 4 a.m. Saturday morning. And then if you notice, when we go through the day Saturday, you can kind of see like these little bands here. Right? This is banding. Go figure. This is brought on by lower static stability in the atmosphere. And it gets a little technical, but you have different types of instabilities in the atmosphere and, so on and so on. But banding is typically associated with frontogenetical forcing, and this is the entire mechanism for producing precipitation. And the dynamics, the physics that are involved with such a setup is very, very sensitive to moisture content, placement of the actual forcing involved. For instance, if the placement of the forcing is a little bit further north, then Charlotte could get 0 inches. If it's a little bit further south, then Charlotte could get 0 inches. It has to be just right to see this much snow over the western part of the state of North Carolina and South Carolina. That's what makes me nervous about this forecast. I'm just going to be completely straight with you. But here is the official forecast from the National Weather Service. We are expecting some pretty major impacts across the majority of the state of North Carolina, South Carolina, and into Virginia. Prepare for power outages, prepare for hazardous travel, make plans now to be safe and off the roads during this weekend. Whatever you have to do today or Friday, because by early Saturday morning, we are looking at snow breaking out potentially over the western part of the state, and it just sliding south and east through the day. And with these banding features, you could have higher amounts of snowfall. Just depends on where that band sets up, if it does. So this is me being cynical.